I'd like to share with you a kabbalistic perspective on current events. We all know what's been going on in Egypt the past couple of days, and I came across a remarkable passage in the writings of the Ishbitzer Rebbe. This is found at the end of Parshat Va'era in Sefer Bet Yaakov of Rabbi Yaakov of Ishbitzer and Radzin. And this is a perspective that we can apply not only to this world event, but to other events down the line. And I read to you. He starts off by quoting the Talmud at the end of Tractate Megillah. Minayin shemishtamshim bevat kol. How do we know that we can make use of the bat kol? And in a moment we'll explain what bat kol means. Shneamar v'oznecha tishma'na davar mecharecha. For it says, your ears will hear something behind you. Be'ar zeh, this means, Dehinei shek Yisrael he b'nei chorin, the Jewish people are free. Az hadibur holech tchila Yisrael be'orach yashar. Then the divine word is communicated to the Jewish people directly. Umehem yitpashet l'chol ha'olam. And from the Jewish people, it will spread to the rest of the nations of the world. Achen begalut, but in a time of exile. Az hem shom'ein rak machorehem. Then the Jewish people hear the voice, or the echo behind them. Shekshashem yitbarach chafetz l'shloach hashpa'a chadasha l'Yisrael. When God wants to send some new influx of energy to the Jewish people, margishin hagoyim mikodem, then the nations of the world are the first to feel that. Umitagdim umitkashrim, and they gather together, v'roashim bezo hatava ma'od, and there's a great tumult among the nations. V'Yisrael mevinim al yedehem eze or, and the Jewish people are able to understand by what's going on among the nations that there's a new light in the world. V'eze hashpa'a chadasha, a new influx of energy. And they're able to discern exactly what new influx God is opening now. And says the Ishbitzer Rebbe, V'chein atah, and so is it now. Mi sheyartzeh lavin harash, someone who wants to understand the noise, the tumult in the world. Mevinim mizeh she'Hashem yitbarach osek v'rotzeh liftoach or chadash aleihem. We understand that God wants to open up a new light, a new sluice of energy. Sheyetzu lecherut v'yiyu b'nei chorin, that people should be free men. U'mechamad she'en l'Yisrael hara mefureshet, and since the Jewish people don't have a clear, distinct, explicit communication, rak shemesha'arim atzmam, but rather they're able to deduce manhagat ha'hefech, from what's going on in the general world about them. Yechuneh zeh b'shem bat kol. This voice, this indirect communication, is called by the sages of the Talmud a bat kol. It's a heavenly voice. It's an echo. V'zeh voznecha tishmana davar me'acharecha. And that's what the verse refers to when it says, your ears will hear something from behind you. Hainu mehagoyim, from the nations of the world. In other words, it will not be frontal, it will not be direct, it will come indirectly from behind. V'hainu ki ritzonam uvukasham shel Yisrael liyot b'nei chorin, and this is the desire of the Jewish people to be free. So I thought that this is a remarkable teaching of this great Hasidic master, Rabbi Yaakov of Ishbitza, which allows us to hear, through the events of the world, the divine communication intended not only for the nation of Egypt, but for all the nations of the world, and particularly for the Jewish people. Now, the problem with freedom is we have a very clear idea of the freedom from, but when it comes to the freedom to, it's much more nebulous. And at this time, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the people of Egypt, that they know true freedom, that this transition of power bring them a freedom that they've never experienced until now. You know, Egypt is one of the great cradles of civilization, and its history goes back thousands of years, and this is indeed an historic moment, not only in the history of the Egyptian nation, but of the entire world. And as I said, it's our fervent prayer for our neighbors to the south in Egypt, that rather than, God forbid, be subjected to an even more brutal and despotic regime, that for the first time in their history they experience true freedom.